Hi friends, it's Miss Sue from the Paint a Turtle Pottery Studio. I am here to teach you how to make our emoji box. So you'll see on your instructions, it does say to cut out a circle template, but I think I forgot to include that in your kit. But you're just going to find any circles that you want. So I'm going to use this roll of tape for a circle because it's kind of a good circle. You could use the bottom of a mug. You could use a pop can, anything that makes a circle as your template, okay? So that's the one thing that I forgot, but we're going to make this emoji box. It is super fun and super easy to make. I have my clay here. I am not going to use a wood dowel or a rolling pin for rolling it flat because I want to show you that you don't necessarily need that. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this piece of clay. I divided my clay into half. I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to kind of beat it down, and I want to flatten it, and I want to make a flat piece about the thickness of an Oreo cookie. Okay. So you could use a rolling pin if you wanted to, but if you don't have one, like I don't have one here, I'm at home today to show you this, then you can always just do it by pounding it down. I also like to just kind of flip it like this and slam it down. I am working on a old pillowcase, but you can work on pretty much any surface you want that's non-sticky. I like using an old pillowcase because the clay doesn't like to stick to it, but you can use puppy pads, you can use an old pillowcase, you can use newspaper. The clay will stick a little bit more to newspaper than it does to fabric, but that's good enough. Okay, so I need 2 circles. So this one I'm going to take first thing, now that I've rolled it a little bit flat, I'm going to take a card and I'm going to smooth it out. Okay, smooth it out. Ooh. Then I'm going to flip it over gently and I'm going to smooth out the other side too. Okay, so this is compressing the clay and it gives it a nice smooth finish. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my circle and I'm going to put it on here, and that's going to be my form, and I'm going to, or my template, and I'm going to take my sharp pointy tool and I'm just going to go around my piece of clay, around my tape with that. Okay, and that's my first circle. Okay, so I'm just going to take this and move this off to the side, and then I'm going to repeat the same process again, adding a little bit more clay from here. Okay, so squish that in, make sure it's nice and compressed. Okay, then I'm going to pound it down and make a second circle. You need 2 circles, one for the bottom of your box and one for the top of your box. One for the emoji and one for the bottom. Okay, so just like to press this down a little bit. Flip. This is the fun part. There we go. And that's about the thickness we're looking for. It is about the thickness of an Oreo cookie, or a 1/4 inch if you really want to measure. Again, compress, flip it over, compress again. Okay. Now, I'm going to do my second circle. One for the bottom and one's for the lid. Okay, so there's that one. There we go. So we have 2 circles. We're going to work on the lid first, and then we're going to work on the body of the box. So you can see I got lots of extra clay to do what we need to do next, but we're going to work on the lid. We're going to make our emoji first. Okay. So with this emoji, the first thing I want to do is I want to smooth out any of these gross cutty marks that that we have like these sharp points, because if there's burrs on there now, it's just going to get way worse when we fire it because it gets sharper. So I'm going to take my finger with a little bit of water on it, and I'm just going to kind of go around the edge here, and I'm just going to smooth out that corner, push it down so that it's not so sharp. Okay. You don't need a lot of water on your fingers. We just want a little bit of water so that our finger slides. And if you see any marks that you need to kind of smooth out, you can. Okay. And I'm just taking off that edge, making it not so sharp, and then smoothing anything out that kind of bugs me. There's a little bit of a crack here. I can take my back of my card, smooth that out, and make that completely disappear. Nobody will know. There. Okay. So now we need to make our emoji face. Well, first of all, he's a winky emoji with his tongue sticking out. So he needs one eyeball and one tongue. But we want to draw, first of all, how he's going to look, right? So you can use the back end of this pointy thing right there. You can use that point to draw his winky eye. I got lots of clay on mine. Okay, so I'm going to go right about here. I'm going to draw his curvy winky eye. I'm going to push in, and there's his curvy winky eye. Okay, take off that little booger of clay. That's what I call them. And then you're going to take a brush, a paintbrush, and I'm just going to, I don't want too much water on it. I'm just going to kind of smooth out that line with a little bit of water so that I don't have a rough, really bumpy part there. I just kind of want to smooth it out. So again, draw your winky eye and then smooth it out with a brush or with your fingers. Okay. Now his big eye is going to be 3D. So we're going to make another eye. But I want to also draw out where his mouth is going to be, his big smiley mouth. Okay. So again, back end of this, we're going to draw a line going across, because that's the top of his mouth, right? So a line going across and a line coming down. Don't worry about where his tongue's going to go, because his tongue's going to go right over top of that line. So drawing it. Okay. Then you're going to take your finger or your paintbrush and just kind of smooth out that line a little bit so that we don't have any burrs or any sharp little pieces of clay that are going to come back to bite us. Okay. So you can see that one's pretty simple so far. Now we have to make his eyeball and his tongue. So to make his eyeball, we're going to take a little piece of clay, probably about the size of a cherry, maybe. We're going to roll it into a ball, just like that. Okay. And then I like to take my credit card or your flat card that you got in your kit, and I'm just going to use that to push down and make a nice flat eyeball. Now you'll see that it gets cracks around the outside edge. If your clay is drying up, it gets cracks. So I'm just going to take my finger and smooth those out so that they disappear. Okay, so I'm going to go all around the outside, smooth out those cracks just with my finger to make sure they go away. Smoothing. You don't want it really, really wet, but you just want enough water on your hands that it slides, and then you just use some pressure. Okay. And that's his eyeball. Now we want to attach that to here, but we want to make sure it sticks on there. So whenever you're attaching two pieces of clay, you have to scratch or score and slip. So score just makes a rough surface. So we're just going to score like this. We're making kind of like a tic-tac-toe on the back of the piece that we're attaching, and also where we're attaching it to. Okay, so we're just going to attach it right there, make some tic-tac-toes like that, rough up that surface. And then slip is literally liquid clay. It acts like glue. So I like to call it making mud. So we're going to make mud on the back of that and make mud where we're attaching it to. Make mud, make mud, make mud, make mud, make mud, make mud. And that mud is sticky. So we're going to put that down where we want it to be, give it a little push and a bit of a wiggle, and that will attach those two pieces together really well. Okay. Then I like to take my brush, not too much water, and I also like to kind of just go around and make sure we've got a good attachment. Okay. And you can use this brush to kind of clean out any lines that happen. There we go. Now he needs an eyeball. Now you have a couple of choices here. You can make it a 3-dimensional eyeball like the little one, or you can press it in. Both ways work. I like to press mine in. So I'm just going to take another thing that is a circle, but not as big as this one, and use that to make an impression. I happen to have a chapstick here. And my chapstick has, in part, you can also use the lid if you want to, but I'm going to use this little part here. And I'm just going to push this in. Back end of a marker works really well, like a highlighter, a glue stick. And I am just going to use that to make an impression. So he's got an eyeball and a winky eye, and now he needs a tongue. Okay. So same thing we're going to do with this. We're going to take a little chunk of clay, probably similar to the same size that we used for our tongue or for our eyeball, maybe a little tiny bit bigger. My clay is starting to dry out, so I'm just going to add a little tiny bit of water. I'm going to roll it up, and I'm going to kind of roll it into a sausage. Okay, so it's kind of a Easter egg-ish look, right? So now I'm going to take my card again and I'm going to squish it down. And it kind of makes more of a square-ish sort of tongue, but we're actually going to square that off. Okay. So to make that more square at this end, we're just going to tap, 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 tap. And that makes a square. And then here is his tongue, like that. And then I am going to put the little line down the middle, because we all have a line down the middle of our tongue, right? I'm going to use the card to do that. I'm just going to go make a little imprint burp, with my card, and there's his tongue. Okay, so then I need to attach that to this. So I'm going to scratch the back of that. Scratch, 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 scratch. I like to go this way too, make it kind of really rough. Lots of crisscrossy applesauces in here. Then you got to figure out where you're going to attach it. This is going to be right in the middle. So you're going to scratch, 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 scratch where it's going to attach, right? Lots of scratchy scratchies. And then make the mud. Make the mud on the back of his tongue. Make the mud on the face part. And then you're going to attach this. And you're going to make sure that it's even with the line of his mouth. It's okay if it comes down. It actually looks better when it's down, but you don't want it up over top of where the line of his mouth is, right? So make sure you got it in there. Give it a good push. And then I'm actually going to take my credit card, and I want to smooth this line out a little bit, make it look like it's actually coming from his mouth. So I'm going to take my credit card on an angle and I'm just going to kind of push it down like that so that the tongue actually looks, clean up my extra here. My tongue actually looks like it's coming from inside his mouth. So I pushed it down on an angle, so it's thinner at this end, up at the top, but thick again here. So I'll lift it up so you can see side view, how it comes down on an angle, and then it's thick here. Okay, pretty simple for the emoji part. It's a lot of fun, pretty easy to make. Ooh. And then if you feel you need to do anything else, like readjust where all of that stuff is, you can definitely use your skewer or your carving tool and make your line even more noticeable. Okay, so there's that. Emoji top is done. Pretty easy. We're not done because we actually want to add, when we're ready to, we're going to make the walls on here. Then we're going to make a little coil on the back of him so that he doesn't slide around or fall off the top of our box. But for now, we're going to kind of put him off to the side. And we're going to work on the bottom of our box now. Okay, so again, this is the bottom of our box, we want to clean this edge. So take your fingers, clean the edge, smooth it down, right? We're going to smooth it all the way around, making sure we have all our edges smooshed in. Cool. All right. There we go. There, I've got all of that cleaned up and ready to go. But now we need to make the sides of our emoji box. And we can do that two ways. We can make coils and build a coil up, or we can make a slab. Both ways work really, really well. If you like the look of the coils, do the coil, but I'm going to show you both ways, okay? So then it's up to you to decide. So to make a coil, you're going to take a chunk of clay and you're going to roll it. Mine's drying out. We're going to roll it into a ball. Then we're going to roll it into a sausage. And then you're going to move this out of your way. You're going to make a long snake. Okay. So we're going to take this and go start in the middle and kind of come out. We're making it longer and thinner each time. Okay. So even pressure, longer and thinner, longer and thinner. And we're going to make these coils about as thick as a pencil. Okay. About as thick as a good pencil. So you're just going to keep rolling it out. Whoop. Did have tape on this before. I should probably tape it down again. I took the tape off. I don't know why I took the tape off, actually. My brain said to take the tape off. And then now I'm regretting that I said to take the tape off. But that's an easy fix. An easy fix. There. Now we're taped again. Taped. Okay, so rolling. Again, using my fingers, not too much pressure. Starting in the middle and rolling out. Okay. So basically what we're trying to make is a coil that will wrap around the size of our box. Okay, so we're going to go like this right on the top, like that. And where you see it overlap, that's where you want to kind of cut it. So I'm going to take my card and I'm just going to slice down both pieces and then remove the pieces that don't need to be there. And then I'm going to repeat that process 2 or 3 times so that I can build a wall. Okay, so that is how you make a, I'm not going to attach it yet. I'm just going to make all of them first. That's how you make a coil walled pot. You're going to make a few of these. Okay, roll, then start to roll here. You're just going to keep this process going. Starting in the middle, rolling out. So see how it gets longer and thinner each time. Just going to keep doing that. And again, about the thickness of a pencil. If you see any spot that's thicker than the others, then just focus on that spot. This spot's a little bit thick here, so I'll just roll that spot until it's the even of the rest. Okay. Fun stuff, rolling coils. Some people get really frustrated with it, and that's okay. If it starts to dry out or crack, then just add some water. Take some water on it like this, and then you can probably roll it more without worrying about it getting too cracky. Okay, so now same thing. I'm going to move this back here for a second. I'm going to measure. You can choose whether you want to put your lines in the same spot each layer, or you can move it. We're going to kind of smooth those lines out, but I just want to kind of guess where it's going to be. Measure, cut down 2, take that one off, take that one off. Okay, so we're gonna, that's 2 layers. I'm gonna do probably 1 more coil, and that will be a deep enough box for me. You want about 1 inch or 2 inches deep, depending on how deep you want your dish. You could make your dish super high if you'd like to, but you don't have to. Okay, so again, rolling into a ball, rolling it back and forth. Hands are too wet. Rolling it back and forth to make a sausage. Then I'm going to start on the table. Oops. Rolling. Rolling. We're just going to keep doing this. Now, again, I'm going to show you both ways. So if you want to wait until you see the next way, how to make the slab part the wall, you might like that better. it builds a lot faster. Just gonna say, the coil is a lot of work, but you get a really cool texture. The slab is so much easier. So you're gonna do this. Okay. Again, cut where they meet. Make sure you cut through both layers. Oops. And make sure they meet. Okay. So we're gonna attach all those. And then you have your box, right? So you've got your coils. We're gonna attach them down, and then your box sits, your lid sits on top, and you can store really cool things in there, right? However, that's one technique. I'm going to show you how to make a slab next, and you can decide which one's going to be your jam. Okay, I'm just going to take this off because I haven't attached anything. I'm just going to move this off to the side for a second so I can show you how to make a slab instead for this particular project. Okay, so I have a nice big chunk of clay still. You could make your thing really deep if you'd like to. And make it almost like a pencil holder with a lid. But what I'm going to do here is I have a nice big chunk of clay that I am going to roll into a big sausage. Okay. Big sausage. We don't want it to be too, what's the word? Too narrow, but now that I've got this big sausage, and I'd probably be able to do it longer if I had that clay as well, but I don't have that, so I'm going to do it this way. Okay, so I've got my little slab here. I'm going to pat that down. We're going to start to flatten it, right? Then I'm going to flatten it more. Flatten it. Okay. Pounding it more. Each time I do that, I'm making it a little bit flatter and a little bit longer, right? So I'm starting at one end and kind of pushing it the other way. Flatten, flatten. So see how it's making it longer? You can use a rolling pin too. If you have a rolling pin, you could roll this out. I don't have a rolling pin, but I do have a cup. So I'm going to show you. You could roll this out with a rolling pin or a cup. Don't necessarily use a glass one because if you push too hard, you might break it. But just showing you, if you have a rolling pin, it rolls out a lot faster. Okay. Smoothing my edge. Smoothing my edge. I'm kind of just making a flat rectangle. Not kind of, I am making a flat rectangle. Okay, so I wanted a little bit thinner than that. Same thing, gonna take my magic roly thing and rolling it out. Whoop, I want to do that. And you want to try and make sure you have a nice even sort of thickness. Okay, so there's my slab. Making a rectangle. You could use a ruler if you wanted to use a ruler to make sure that you have nice straight lines. You're going to actually cut a really long rectangle. Okay, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of measure first and see where I'm at with this. Here's what I need to make a wall for, and I'm going to measure and see where I'm at. See how much easier that is? I made a really long, a tall box in very little time, right? See how much easier that is? But you want to make sure you have a nice flat rectangular piece to do that. I need just a little bit more length so that I have this part doesn't dip down. See how it kind of dips down here because these come down. So I just need a little bit more length, just a tiny bit. So I'm going to roll this end because it looks fatter than this end. So roll, roll. That probably gave me enough length. Okay. Now I want to, again, measure, but I want to make a nice square or squared off piece. You can use a ruler. You can use a piece of paper that usually works too, to make a template. So you could say, okay, I know I need my paper to be about as long as this whole paper is. So you're gonna just find how high you want your sides. So I'm just going to fold this to make my template. Okay. I know this is my nice rectangle. That's about the size that I want. Okay. So I'm going to say that that's pretty close. I'm going to use my pin tool. I'm going to cut off the stuff that I don't need. Ooh. Right. And cut off the stuff that I don't need. All right. It's not perfect, but it's pretty darn close. Put this here. Grab. Look at how close to perfect that is. There we go. That's pretty good. Ooh. That's actually even a little bit longer than I need. Perfect. Okay, so you can see here I have an overlap, which is okay. I want to make sure, first of all, that those walls fit on the outside edge, and they do. So I'm going to cut that. You can use your pin tool to cut it, or you can use your card to cut it, whichever way you want to do. You're going to do it on an angle. So you're not going to go straight into it like this. You're actually going to go onto an angle, because then you can attach them and nobody's going to see. I'm going to use my card. I'm going to go on an angle like this, right? I'm going to go straight down, right down to the bottom. Not through the bottom part, but through the clay that I'm adding. I don't want to go into my base though. Okay, so see how these two are now on an angle? We can join those two together with very little seam showing. I like doing a slab more than I like doing a coil. I think the slab just gives it more of a solid. You can also get a bigger side with less frustration. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to attach both of these. All right, so I'm just going to move my coil, or my slab, I should say, off to the side for a moment so that I can show you how to attach a coil to this. So I've got my coils here. If you want to make coils, which are cool and fun and lots of texture, you're going to basically start, both of them start the same way. We're going to do scritchy scratchies around the outside edge of our box, scritchy scratchies all the way around. Right, scritchy scratchies all the way around. Just so that we have that texture. And our coil, you're going to, you don't necessarily have to add too much scritchy scratchies. You can do scritchy scratchies around the bottom. I tend to not, because I like my coils to be really wet. So I'm gonna slip, or make the mud, as I like to say. And then to put this coil on, you're gonna make sure you have a really good amount of slip. You can even make this wet and then do the same thing, attach it. And you're going to make this slippy and then the next coil and attach it and build it up and up and up. So make sure you're slipping each single row, lots of making mud and adding it until you're got the height that you want. Okay. And then that's how you would make that. I am going to make it with the slab because I like making the slab better. So I have the slip all along here already. I'm opening my coil. I'm going to take my tool and I am going to scratch this bottom edge a little bit. Scratch, 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 where it's going to attach. I want a good little scratchy going on here. Right? Just little lines. Make the mud. So mud up here, mud along this edge. Mud. Edge. Then we're going to attach it back onto here. Okay. Make sure it's attached well and where you want it to be. And then where these two pieces join, we're going to scritchy scratch and scritchy scratch. And make mud and make mud. Lots of mud. Put them together. And you want to kind of pinch them so that you don't see your line. It just kind of disappears. I mean, you'll see a little bit of it, but you want to make sure that your sides are down, rounded. Okay, then again, where these two lines join right there, you're going to just make sure that you've got them together and you're smoothing with your finger to try and hide that join. You could do inside with your finger, smooth it with your thumb like that. Outside, smooth it like that. And then any other lines that you see in here, you can use your credit card rib tool and smooth it out. Okay, so I like doing the slab method more. I think it builds up better. It's easier on the brain. And I think it's actually more solid, like it's more of a structural, solid design. We want to make sure we're putting a good amount of pressure down so that we have a good attachment between the bottom and the side. We want to make sure we have a really good attachment there. Okay. And then that is the bottom of your box. Now, this is the lid, but if we just put this on top of here like this, this is going to, once it gets fired, this is going to be really slippery. We want to create a little bit of a lip inside on the back end of this to kind of hold it in place because we don't want it to slide everywhere, right? So what I like to do is just put this down a little bit so you can kind of see where it goes. And then you know that you're going to need inner lip, okay, an inner circle. So I'm going to put this off to the side. It doesn't need to be really big. This doesn't really need to be really big to fit inside that. So I'm actually going to take one of these coils that I made. You're going to make another coil if you'd like, right? I'm going to make a smaller, thinner coil. I really don't need this much. It only needs about half of that. So I'm going to keep making a thin coil, probably about, I want to say not even half a pencil thick. It's really, really tiny. You don't need a lot. So I'm taking that. I'm going to rip off some more because it doesn't need to be that big still. It's just to create a little bit of a bump, a speed bump, if you will, to keep it from falling off, right? Okay, so we can measure if you want. You know what you're going to need by, I got a little break, and that's okay. We can make it in 2 spots. I'll just make it in 2 spots. We can measure by knowing it's got to be thinner or smaller than, it's got to fit inside there, really, right? So that'll fit inside. And I know that I need about that much more, right? That'll fit. And again, it's just to stop the box from wiggling around, the box lid from wiggling around too much and falling off, right? So it's just going to be an inner ring that's going to stop this from sliding. It'll still slide a little bit, but it won't be all super wiggly. So I've got a little ring here. I know that fits inside there. And I'm going to put that on the back of this guy. So I'm going to flip this around. I'm going to put this kind of right where I want it to go. Right about there. So I know that's going to work. Right about there. Okay. That's just going to stop my box from wiggling around. So I'm going to add that now. I'm going to I can see where I want it. You can make a little ring if you want to. Just kind of say, yep, it goes right there. Right. So then you can see where you got to scratch on the outside of that ring, because I did on the inside. Scratch all the way around. Like that. Okay, gonna make my coil super muddy. I'm gonna make the mud in here. And I'm gonna attach this. Okay, so there's that part. This part, go right inside there. Okay, so I just want to make sure I've got this kind of pressed down onto the base. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to turn this over and kind of drop it a couple of times. That just kind of flattens it a little bit. I don't want to drop it too hard because I don't want to see it in the top of my, like I don't want to make too much of a texture at the top here. I just want to know that it's there, right? So I've got my ring. That's going to kind of stop my box lid from sliding all over because it's going to be an inner rim, right? So when you put it down, it would stop your box from being able to slide everywhere. And then you're going to let this dry for a couple of days. I would actually let this dry separately from this. If you're going to let them dry together, then you want to put a piece of paper over top of this to kind of support. Okay. You want to make sure, or you can just put this off to the side and let that dry all by itself. Either way works. A little piece of paper towel over top of this would work, or a piece of paper. Okay. And then you're going to let it sit for a couple of days, 2 days. And then you're going to, I'm going to use a piece of paper towel. I'm going to use, it's actually a napkin that I'm using, but it's a napkin that's thin enough to actually just create a small thin barrier between the lid and the clay, or the lid and the body, so they don't stick together, right? So I'm just going to put this on top of here like that. Then I'm going to just put this on top like that to dry for a couple of days. And then in a couple of days, I'll take it apart and then I'm going to paint it with the underglaze. And then I'm going to bring it into the studio for firing. Okay, so that you're going to do the exact same thing. You're going to paint it when it's drier for about 2 days. And then you can paint it. And then you're going to bring it in for firing. Here's the thing. Clay needs to dry for 2 weeks before we can fire it. So if you want to, you have a few options. One, you can bring this in just like this and unpainted and tell us, and we will fire it 2 weeks from the day you made it. And then you can pick it up and you can paint it and then bring it back again for firing again. Or you can wait a couple of days, let it dry, then you can paint it and then bring it in and we'll let it dry for 2 weeks from the day that you paint it and then we'll fire it. Okay. Either way works. What we're going to do is we're going to paint it dry clay. That's what I'm going to do, is going to paint dry clay and then I'll wait 2 weeks and then fire it all in one. So I would suggest that you're going to paint your emoji face yellow. I would paint his eye first white, then your emoji yellow, then your tongue red, and then paint the black parts that you need. So his eyeball and his mouth, and then paint the whole box yellow and bring it in for firing. Okay. Don't forget to put your name on here. I almost forgot to do that. So I'm going to take that off for a second. Don't forget to put your name on here. So put your name on the bottom here. I'm going to put PTP. So there's my capital T, P for Painted Turtle Pottery. Then I'm going to draw my turtle tail. Look at him. He's so cute. Needs an eyeball. Look. So there's my mark. So that I know that he is made by the Painted Turtle Pottery Studio. Don't forget to put your name on yours. And that is your emoji box. I hope that you guys are having super fun with March break. I hope that you're making some incredible stuff. And I can't wait to see all your artistic endeavors. Okay, guys, thanks for joining us. Have fun.